Chapter 36. Kong Mun-young quickly pulled himself together. Even if he was caught in a tiger's den, wouldn't he be able to survive as long as he keep his wits together? Whatever do you mean? Look at this fool. Chong-myung snorted. Did you think my eyes are for decoration? Do I look like someone who can't recognize the Taiyi divine palm? Chong-myung shrugged. Quite a coincidence. What a crafty bitch. The person operating a business in Hwalm who led the merchants to pressure Mount Hua into the ground over their debt also just happens to know the martial arts of the Jungnam sect. The Taiyi divine palm technique. You've learned it quite well, huh? Cold sweat ran down Kong Mun-young's back. He was so surprised that he couldn't even feel the pain from the beating he took. Damn it. What do you mean? He should have been more cautious. Even if his neck was cut off, he shouldn't have used that technique. What's more, he did it in front of a man from Mount Hua. A fatal mistake. But can this be called a mistake? If the old man hadn't pushed Kong Mun-young to this extent and suddenly unsheathed the sword while beating the hell out of him, Kong Mun-young wouldn't have used the technique. If it was a coincidence, it was the worst kind. If he aimed for this, then Kong Mun-young couldn't imagine just how nasty that old man was. Did the Jungnam sect send you? Kong Mun-young tightly sealed his lips. No matter what he said, it could come out as an excuse. If he could turn the situation around, even if he had to use the lamest excuse, then he would. But it didn't seem like anything would work on this old man, so he kept silent to ensure that he didn't give up more information. Keeping your mouth shut, Chong-myung walked towards Kong Mun-young. Well, this is fine too. It's a good thing to be loyal. I think you made a good choice, but there is one thing you're wrong about. Do you know what that is? What is it? I won't tell you. The Jungnam sect wasn't an easy place. Since the old days, the Jungnam sect had been at odds with Mount Hua, but it must be admitted that it was now one of the 10 great sects. There was no way for a sect of that size to do such a sloppy work. That was Chong-myung's thoughts. The information Kong Mun-young knew had to be limited, and even if he knew more, there was no way to verify its authenticity. All he had to know was that this was indeed the work of the Jungnam sect. Isn't that something that Chong-myung and Mount Hua should find out? You bastard. Even in the past, when the martial arts world was quite grim, it wasn't this horrible. One of the 10 great sects tries to steal not just other people's martial art techniques, but also their entire sect? Isn't that quite a scam? What an honorable sect. Kong Mun-young, who could no longer maintain his composure, broke out. Right. Isn't that better for Mount Hua too? You must understand it too. Mount Hua is hopeless now. Wealth? Riches? They're just additional things for a sect. Mount Hua has lost its martial arts and it can no longer become the same Mount Hua whose name echoed in glory. It's just a matter of it falling down later if it survives now. Oh. Chong-myung listened to Kong Mun-young's words. I was trying to snuff out the dying Mount Hua's last breaths. Again, this is something Mount Hua should be thankful for. Someone like you should know this, right? Mount Hua can no longer survive. Even the martial arts, the core of any sect, had withered at Mount Hua. Who said that? You don't understand what I am saying. No. Who said that Mount Hua's martial arts have withered? Kong Mun-young looked at Chong-myung with blank eyes. Kong Mun-young would have snorted and dismissed it if anyone else had said this. But the words coming from Chong-myung seemed to hold greater weight. In the eyes of Kong Mun-young, this man was a former master of Mount Hua. You bastards are trying to cut off Mount Hua's last breath? Mount Hua is still alive and well. Even if it dies, it dies. But you piece of shit, what do you think you're trying to do by burying Mount Hua while it still breathes? Whatever. You crooked bastards always justify your actions with some twisted logic. I'd rather you people charge straight ahead and destroy Mount Hua head on. That is the only way I will acknowledge those bitches from the Jungnam sect. The closer one lives, the more likely they will bump into each other. It's true that in diplomatic matters, you must treat your enemies as friends and keep them close. Mount Hua and the Jungnam sect had many similarities, and both had a strong focus on swordsmanship. Despite having different ideals, they stayed close to one another. If two sects with similar techniques were placed side by side, one was bound to die. In the past, Chong-myung would regularly beat the shit out of the Jungnam sect when he felt bored. To be more precise, Chong-myung would provoke them into starting a fight. I am not a member of the Jungnam sect. Is that so? You misunderstood something. but the technique you saw was something I learned by accident. Ah, right. Should I tell you a surprising fact? What is it? I am not a member of Mount Hua either. Yes, that makes sense. You son of a bitch! Chongmyung was startled at Kong Mun-young's reaction. That was close. He almost hit him. Anyway, in return for showing me that technique, I will show you something interesting. If you can recognize this, it will be interesting. But if you don't, then it's a shame. Chongmyung slowly stuck his sword out. Tell the one who sent you. Chongmyung's way of speaking had changed. The playful appearance was no more. His bent back was now straight, and the drooping shoulders had regained their form. A perfect posture, picturesque. Kong Mun-young, who witnessed it, was shocked. A sudden breeze began to blow over the area. The wind seemed to carry the gentle scent of plum blossoms that filled the air. Plum blossoms give off the most intense fragrance when they bloom in the snow. Although it is winter now, Mount Hua's spirit remains unbroken. Even the spring will come and the plum blossom will bloom in full. Kong Mun-young saw it, the tip of the sword which moved. Shiver. The movement, which began with a tiny vibration, soon grew into a great tremor, and the tremor turned into an illusory sword whose trajectory seemed to embroider the sky in a fantasy. The tip of the sword seemed to cover the entire sky. Vivid plum blossoms bloomed at the sword's tip. After a dreary winter, the plum blossoms, which heralded a warm spring, bloomed all over the mountain, painted into the world through Chongmyung's sword. This is an illusion. The wind blew. The plum blossoms, which covered the sky as if fluttering in the spring wind, began to bloom. Eventually, the petals flew up as if swimming in the sky and landed on Kong Mun-young's head. The petals gently swept past Kong Mun-young, blowing away his consciousness like the wind. Until the very end, he didn't know what he was looking at. Thud. Only the sound of him falling to the floor unconscious could be heard. The plum blossom petals covering the sky disappeared like a mirage. Chongmyung, who withdrew his sword, turned around. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth due to overexerting himself to operate the technique. Chongmyung, who took off his mask, spit out a large surge of blood. I'm going to die for sure. He had a broken body that lacked strength. If it was the past, such a thing could have been done without sweating. The foundation is good, but I still might die. Ouch. Chongmyung put the mask on and thought about coming up with some new countermeasures. Well then, his gaze went to the other merchants. They were looking at Chongmyung as if they had seen a ghost. Why wouldn't they? They had never seen or heard of plum blossoms blooming in the sky due to a sword technique. No, they had heard such a feat was accomplished by masters in the past, but those warriors were dead, so they believed it to be an exaggerated legend. However, this man brought the legend to life before their eyes. From their point of view, as those who tried to extort money by scamming Mount Hua, Chongmyung was nothing short of a Grim Reaper. Who wants to be beaten first? Who wants to leave? Me! I will go away too! Please spare us! Chongmyung just nodded his head. Good! So cooperative. Merchants rushed out and away from their carts. But of course, Chongmyung had no intention of letting them go so easily. Stop moving. The merchants froze in unison. If you just leave like this, what am I to do about these carts? Think a little. Think. Chongmyung pointed toward the unconscious Kong Mun-young. No more words were needed. As soon as the words were spoken, the merchants rushed to their carts. 800 nyang. 2,800 nyang. It is 8,000. What? You had that much money? Is that important now? Some even yelled at the others. Chongmyung, who saw it, frowned. Hey! Yes. Did you include the cost of the cart and the horse too? Recalculate. Yes. Once it was done, Chongmyung nodded. All right, then I will lend you the horse, so one of you will go to the nearest town from here and get the money. I will sell these wares to you. The merchants looked at Chongmyung with blank eyes. They were the sort of people who lived their lives obsessed with money, but even for them, this was the first time they'd seen such a person. Bring the money on a non-marked slip. If you put anything on the slip, I will kill you right away, okay? Yes. One person will go. But what? One merchant asked. What if the one going escapes? Chongmyung laughed. What good would running away do? Do you people have money now? No. And your businesses have been confiscated? Yes. then what good will running and escaping even do? If you want to at least get something, you should come back, right? Then what if they report to the government? Try it. Chungmyeong gently raised his leg and hit the floor. Thud. The ground beneath them cracked. Report it, but don't come back with them. Run to the end of the world because I will capture that bastard even if I die. So don't think of coming back. The merchants gave up on the report too. Thinking about it, their families were here. They couldn't just run away and leave them. Go. Yes. Mount Hua was a benevolent sect. However, there was one reason why the merchants were unhappy. Mount Hua was benevolent, but not everyone who lived in Mount Hua was. On that day, a masked man with a money slip as thick as a book climbed Mount Hua with joy and excitement. The wealth made from the sweat and tears of many people were silently stored in a greedy warehouse.